All right, let's talk about something big that's happening right now. We're witnessing a seismic shift in how software gets built, a revolution that basically promises to turn anyone with a good idea into an app creator.
I mean, really think about it. What if you could build a complete, working app just by describing what you wanted to do? No complicated code, no hunting for expensive developers, just your vision brought to life, basically through a conversation. And this isn't science fiction anymore. It's a huge change that's happening as we speak.
And this new way of building software, well, it has a name that just perfectly captures its whole spirit: vibe coding. It actually started with a single tweet, but the term just spread like wildfire because it completely nails the intuitive, almost conversational feel of this new way of making things. So what is it exactly? The term was coined by AI researcher Andrej Karpathy back in February of 2025. Vibe coding is where you just describe what you want in plain English, and a large language model goes and writes the actual code for you. It totally flips the script. The human's role changes from being a coder, painstakingly typing out every single line, to being more like a director, just guiding the overall vision. And this quote from Karpathy himself, man, it really shows you how radical this whole idea is. It's not just about getting some help with your code, it's an entirely new philosophy. The goal is to just forget the nitty-gritty syntax even exists and instead focus completely on the high-level vibe of what you're building, trusting the AI to translate that feeling into software that actually works.
And this whole philosophy, it taps into a really powerful dream, right? The dream of being able to create things without any barriers. So let's dig into the incredible promise that has so many people excited about this.
At its core, the big promise here is all about democratizing development. It's this idea that entrepreneurs, small business owners, hobbyists, really anyone can finally build their own tools. You don't need a fancy computer science degree anymore, you just need a clear idea and the ability to explain it. And look, this isn't just some theory. Let me tell you a quick story that really brings it home. There was one user who spent almost $2,000 hiring freelance developers to build an app. And after all that time and money, the thing was completely broken. A total classic development nightmare. But then, get this. That same person turned to one of these new vibe coding apps, a platform called Vibecode. And in just 15 minutes, they had a working version. That is the magic right there. From a $2,000 disaster to a 15-minute success story. It's an almost irresistible pitch. But of course, that incredible dream, that amazing first rush of creating something out of thin air, it can turn sour really fast. As a lot of people are now finding out, there's a serious downside hiding just under the surface of that magical first experience. So yeah, what is the catch? I mean, if it sounds way too good to be true, is it? When you're putting all your trust in an AI to write code that you can't even read or understand yourself, you're taking a pretty massive leap of faith. And you don't have to look far to find the problem. This quote from a developer forum just captures it perfectly. That first build feels amazing, like magic. But the second you need to add a new feature or fix something specific, you can find yourself completely lost, just knee-deep in a tangled mess of AI-generated code that's impossible to maintain. And we're not just talking about messy code. The risks here are huge. We're talking about critical security vulnerabilities, like the one that hit the Lovable app back in May of 2025, which exposed personal data across 17 different applications. The code can be wildly inconsistent, almost impossible to debug, and it leads to this thing developers call technical debt, which is basically the future cost of fixing all the shortcuts you're taking right now. And trust me, that debt always comes due. So let's see how this stuff plays out in the real world. We're going to zoom back in on Vibecode, the app from that success story we mentioned, and take a hard look at its business model, which a lot of users are now calling a trap.
So when you first look at Vibecode, it seems to have a pretty standard subscription plan. But if you look closer at this pricing table, you'll see the real engine of their business is a credit system. Every single thing you ask the AI to do, build a feature, change a color, and yep, you guessed it, fix a bug, it all costs you these credits.
And this is where it gets really tricky. It creates this vicious cycle that a lot of people call an economic trap. So the AI generates buggy code, which happens all the time. You then have to spend your precious paid-for credits to ask the AI to fix its own mistake. But a lot of the time, the AI either fails or, even worse, it introduces a new bug. And so the cycle just repeats, burning right through your credits,
and, well, your wallet.
And hey, this isn't just me talking. This is the real, lived experience of so many users. This App Store review just says it all perfectly. In this kind of model, the platform's own mistakes actually become a major source of revenue. They are literally monetizing the AI's own failures.
The result of all this is a really fascinating split in their user base. The app still has a great 4.5-star rating overall, which looks fantastic on the surface. But when you actually read the reviews, you see this huge divide. There are two camps: the happy beginners who are just thrilled to have an app, and then the deeply frustrated long-term users who've been totally burned by this credit trap and the AI's constant screw-ups.
So you've got this incredible promise on one hand, and this really painful reality on the other. It raises the big question: what is the actual future of building apps this way? To figure that out, we've got to zoom out and look at the intense competition that is heating up in this space right now.
Vibecode is definitely not alone, and it's getting squeezed from every direction. You've got direct competitors like Rourke and SteerCode, and they offer users full ownership of the code, which is a huge deal. You've got professional-grade AI-powered tools like Cursor and Replit for serious developers, and then you've got the biggest threat of all: the tech giants. Google's tool Stitch is an incredibly powerful piece of software that can generate beautiful, functional app interfaces and the code behind them, and it's completely free. This poses a truly existential question for a company like Vibecode. How can you survive as a paid service when one of the biggest companies in the world is just giving away a key part of your value for free? Okay, so after looking at all this, for anyone who's actually trying to navigate this exciting but, let's be honest, treacherous new world, what's the big takeaway? Well, it can pretty much be summed up by a simple but really powerful idea from the analysis: the 60% rule.
So here's how you should think about it. An AI can get you about 60% of the way to a finished app with just breathtaking speed. But that last 40%, the really critical, detail-oriented work of fixing bugs, polishing the user experience, locking down security, that still requires a ton of human effort. So the advice is pretty clear. Use these tools for what they're amazing at, getting that first 60% done super fast. But you have to budget your time, your money, and your expectations for that final crucial 40%.
And all of this leaves us with the central question for this entire field. Is vibe coding just a fascinating, incredibly powerful toy for building quick prototypes? Or is this the shaky, unstable, but maybe thrilling foundation of a completely new way of building our entire digital world? The final answer, well, it's still being written, one line of AI-generated code at a time.